Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join Oasis Solutions and AvidXchange for another webinar about AP automation. Today, we're going to talk about where to start AP automation with the invoice or the payments. To give you a little bit of background and some housekeeping details up front, I'm going to talk first about Oasis Solutions. My name is Aaron Rosenberg. For you that don't know me, I'm the Senior Vice President at Oasis Solutions and a partner here. And Oasis Solutions has been just celebrated our 28th anniversary actually earlier this month. So we were founded in 1991, and what we've been doing over those last 28 years is helping our customers select, implement, train, and then support them on the core business management software applications that they use to automate efficiencies within their companies. We're really grateful over the last year to have some accolades I wanted to share with you. We were a Fast 50 company, growing fast in this marketplace through organic growth as a privately held small business. We're also one of Louisville's Business First Best Places to Work in 2018 and also in 2017. And we really are proud of that because that means happy employees, and happy employees make happy clients. We were also a GLI Inc. Credible Award winner last year, as well as being named to an industry list for Bob Scott's Top 100 Value-Added Resellers. So a little bit more about us, if you haven't worked for us, and some of you all are clients, and hopefully some of you all will become clients, but we do service a wide variety of clients across 35 states, different industries, shapes, and sizes. And we really put an emphasis on our people and our processes, as well as our clients' people and processes, because we believe that who you buy from in the marketplace today is often more important than what you buy. So what we're going to show you today is a great solution from AvidXchange, and we want to help our clients be enabled to leverage that technology and really get the most out of their investments. We do that through a really talented expert team with a ton of experience of controllers, software developers, and some former CFOs on staff who know the benefits of really the technology solutions, and that managing this type of project is just going to be another piece of project on your already heaping plate of things to do, and we want to help you manage that effectively, be successful. And even though we don't practice public accounting or specialize in tax and audits, we have CPAs on staff too that really know best accounting practices, particularly with this accounts payable automation trend that we're seeing in the marketplace. And on our talented team, we have well over 350 years of combined experience. So we do want to encourage questions, so please use the GoToWebinar widget here to ask us questions. You may have realized that you're in listen-only mode, especially if you've been screaming at me to speak up or to stop talking so fast. However, if you do have questions, just put them over here in the panel, and we'll answer those at the end of the webinar. Also, if you do need us to speak up or have a problem with the transitions on the slides, we want to know about that too. So we'll try to answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. If we don't get to a question today, we can absolutely follow up at the end of the webinar session. We'll also launch a poll at the end of the webinar to make sure that we can capture the best way to follow up with you. And we'll send a quick follow-up email as well with the presentation deck and recording of the webinar. So if you do want to pass it around to your friends and family, you want them to see the webinar, you can also point them back to our YouTube channel too. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Wayne Richard, who is going to lead us through the bulk of our presentation today and discuss with you more about Avid Solutions and the trends that they're seeing in AP automation. And Wayne, I'm going to give you control here so you can run with the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you some of the, really AP automation best practices that I've seen and certainly learned over my last 2 years here at AvidXchange. So my role within the company is really partnering and working with individuals like Aaron and helping really optimize an AP strategy with his clients in order to make sure that they're getting the most out of their accounting solution and really reducing touch points, reducing paper, and just overall creating a tangible ROI. So I'm going to try, and there we go. It works. Excellent. So quick agenda for today. Really, we're going to touch on really 4 main points here. The first time and cost associated with the manual AP process. So, really, what can we give you back? What is AP automation? Also the benefits of bundling invoice and AP automation. And then we're going to wrap it up with a look at AvidXchange inside of NetSuite, what that looks like, and we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. All right, so we'll start off with the time and cost associated with AP invoices. So a couple things here that that really historically is what's around a manual process. So the intaking of invoices, what that means, getting invoices that are really not standard. Invoices can come in through sometimes through email, sometimes through mail. They certainly don't look the same. They've got things all over. Makes it very hard for, even if you've taken a step in automation of trying to use OCR, it makes it very difficult for that to be able to capture those the correct data. And that's really what the next point is kind of coming into. So when that comes in and having a manual process around that, the amount of the amount of errors, even just losing invoices can certainly be something that maybe you've experienced in the past. We also take a look at how the invoice is matched. So when you're entering that into your ERP, if it has a purchase order attached to that, where does that then need to be matched in the solution? Is it a manual process right now? If you're not using a purchase order, how do you track down the right approvers? I see a lot of times users are constantly passing around either emails, forwarding over to certain people, and then maybe printing out that email and using it part of the record, or downloading it and saving it into NetSuite. But really what that ends up being is slowing down a process that's already probably got a lot of touch points already. And maybe along that way the invoice gets misplaced, or really it comes down to a missed discount, maybe even a late payment, or at least taking phone calls from your vendors wondering where the payment is, and you kind of got to track it down. Last point on here is reporting. Having a paper process, it's really hard to really see where are these invoices in the process. We're going to call that kind of a siloed system. There's really no great way to have that visibility into what's going on, and then therefore you can't really pull that data back out. That could be kind of an ROI there would be what kind of error rate are you having? How long is it taking for invoices to be pushed through an approval process? So that next slide here, based on the 2018 e-payables book, it really taking into the effect of missed discounts, missed payments, the amount of time it takes. They actually estimate that the cost of an invoice is around $11.50. So I do a lot of these. That's really not a pie in the sky number. I do these return on investment calls with a lot of my clients and who are looking at AP automation. And when they start breaking down what they could be missing, we've seen everywhere from this number and higher. So let's take a look at that. What's really associated when we look at an AP process? There's a lot of touch points. So anywhere from receiving that invoice, it could be you've kind of gone paperless and you've gotten that invoice coming in through your email. A lot of times you're probably printing that out and passing that around, or having a paper copy. If it's coming in through the mail, maybe you're doing the opposite. You're still taking a scan of that to save it somewhere, but you're still you've kind of got two sources or systems of record there. And then the time and effort it takes to enter this in, for that to go around. I mean, you're talking not only hours, it could be days before this is approved. And then we kind of walk through that, not to really drag you through the glass, but what are you paying to store these? Is it searchable? Is it reportable? If a vendor calls you up, how are you answering that question on where that invoice is in the process? So you kind of lose some control or visibility there. And then not to mention here, wrapping it up on the missed discounts. So, we want to really kind of take all of these as being, we see this as a lot of touch points, a lot of things that we can essentially automate, and then really just leaving you with the decision of when to approve and answering those vendor questions. The flip side of what does it cost to process an invoice is the cost per payment. I go through this a lot more with clients who are really looking at going to a paperless payment solution, and just checks alone, people would agree, are at least $2 a check. I mean, when you start to actually factor in all of the costs that not only paper, ink, postage, what if the check wasn't delivered properly? So all of those things that you take into account that, you might actually think, okay, well, all of that in itself isn't very costly, but you start to add it up and really come into a pretty expensive solution, and more of a reason to go ahead and automate. So here's why that payment automation is really so important, and why it's one of the first places you should look. So the first point being multiple payment types. So even though that checks are still prevalent, most companies are still making at least some of their payments electronically, and that could be by ACH, maybe credit card or wire. But that means by engaging those multiple payment types, you're kind of adding more steps to the solution. And now AP has to stay on top of all of how each vendor has to be paid, managing those banking information, flagging different things, so that it really is more of a cumbersome process to that whole AP workflow. So the next one being approvals. So a lot of businesses require dual signature or dual pay control because that's just the way that they've always done it. Well, that can also take up a lot of time. In most companies, if you're still talking about the time employees are burning through trying to track down managers and collect signatures, or maybe you're the one who has that stack of checks and invoices on your desk and just having to go through and manually line things up, you start to look at, is there a better way to get this done? So reconciliation, that's another one too. I get a lot of questions about. There's a lot of consolidation on information for proper reconciliation. So it's kind of all over the place, but none of it is really a real-time solution. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. It usually involves logging into multiple systems, waiting for the information, and then really kind of going line by line and manually going through that. One of the best things I love about our solution is the follow-up procedure. But when you look at what that's looking like for a typical AP process, let's walk through the scenario there. You send a payment off. Let's say in this case, you're paying with your Amex, and then the invoice comes in, and then you pay it again via a check. Or the vendor changes their bank account number, and that ACH didn't go through. So there's lots of scenarios where you're doing your best to make sure that the payment goes through, but you're still getting phone calls from the vendor saying that they didn't receive it. You're getting returned checks, returned ACH payments. And the last one, it's audit season, so this probably hits home for a lot of you. It's really tough in a paper environment to have a clear idea of reporting, or even going through that audit and having to open up the file cabinets and really break out all the paper. One of the biggest improvements that I see in an AP process is being able to provide that real-time data of where that invoice, where that payment is at any step in the way, provide those comments and all that history that was done to that invoice and payment along the way also. So very powerful stuff. So another fun statistic, and hopefully, this isn't something that you have had to experience, but we see it often. 23 days is really the average processing time from approval receipt to payment, and this is unfortunately particularly costly when it comes to utilities, where an invoice that comes in for utilities, you have 10 days So those are ones that you really, really need to get through extremely quickly. It probably rings true for a lot of you. So new way of thinking about how to look at AP. Let's take, kind of the old way of doing things on the left and moving that into kind of the digital realm. So no longer receiving physical paper invoices. Now let's make those a digital record, and really a digital file cabinet on top of that. Being able to capture that data on the invoice. So no longer having to manually enter in each one of those header fields, the bill to, ship to, amounts, POs, really give way to OCR technology, to our team being able to extract that information. I love this part of the solution. So matching, POs and having the control over your purchases is becoming very prevalent and almost kind of a given in a lot of organizations now. And being able to automatically match those without having to go searching for that, just having an instant match, extremely important in a way of thinking in the future. So the approvals, obviously that can, depending on how you're doing that now, whether it be walking from desk to desk, sending emails, the workflow that could be applied to that. If an invoice comes in from ABC Supply and that should be someone in the warehouse that approves that, automatically route that there. So reporting, I think we've touched on this pretty good, but we don't really want to look at reporting as kind of data in the past. We want to know what's going on right now. So looking at real-time reporting, seeing where everything is, maybe even putting timers to those invoices, making sure that they're not taking a whole lot of time to be able to get through the process and have that good, clean data. And lastly, payment. I don't want to focus on checks too much. I know that's still in the workplace. Up to 80% of checks are still being cut each day. So looking at the future, if I were to ask you in 5 years, do you see yourself still cutting checks? It's mostly a resounding no. All right. There we go. So what is AP automation? So really kind of a snapshot here. And I'm going to go through this slide a little quicker. So really what we look at is kind of a unified solution. So a way for purchase orders to really, kind of work with your purchase order solution instead of, having two dual records of two systems of record. Being able to receive invoices, extract that information, put it into a workflow and get it into your ERP. Sending payments to your suppliers. So being able to select as many payments as you want, have those be sent off, and then have that payment detail be flowed back into your ERP. And I can't touch on enough real-time reporting. One thing that's really cool with having a digitized process is you can also give read-only access to auditors. So a lot of my clients saw this. They thought it was a cool idea when they were first implementing AvidXchange, but now this last season, it made it a less painful experience to just be able to have their auditor go in, pull the invoices that they need to, see all of that history. So I'll touch on the payment network. So really one of the crowning achievements of AvidXchange have been doing this for so long is that we have an extensive supplier network. This means that we're familiar with your vendors. It means that they're sending us invoices, we're sending them payment. So really the time to adoption and your ramp up is just that much quicker because we're already familiar with so many suppliers out there. We offer them multiple payment options. So what this means is they get the choice of how they want to receive payment. You no longer have to reach out to them and get their bank account information or anything else like that. We have a vendor services team, so that's part of the onboarding, but we're also making sure that did they receive that payment? If they didn't, they can call AvidXchange directly and we'll go ahead and reissue payment. And then the big one everyone loves is the potential for rebates. We're very proud of actually providing a tangible return on the investment back to our clients. So the platform is extremely secure. We're held to very high standards. We actually are partnered with a couple banks, and we've had to live up to those same security standards and audits that they were subjected to. Incredible, very vast accounting system integrations, extremely reliable. We have a 99% uptime. That's our SLA. I think our actual uptime has been 99.7%. In the compliance, obviously in the fintech space, we're heavily watched and have to be compliant on several different levels. And then interoperability. So really, we're with creating these partnerships, these integrations, we've really found a way to, try to be, a solution for the masses. So let's focus now on what that automation means from, kind of at the beginning of the process. So the way that invoices are collected. And we offer a separate portal. This offers for invoices to come in. What we're able to do is accept 100% of those invoices. And that could be via email or mail. We'll actually open up a PO box and be able to receive those invoices. And once we receive those, we're opening it up, we're sending that into a workflow. So depending on the type of invoice, the vendor, the amount, that goes to the individuals to code and approve. So those decisions around AP are still in your hands. We can certainly offer some cool things around coding and some memorization around it, but that is ultimately a decision. So the actual process there, when we're going ahead, we're receiving all of these, it gets into your Avid portal, and now it awaits really the next step, which is that workflow process. So it comes in. Here's a snapshot of the portal. This is specific to each user. So there's no user fees in the Avid portal. It's you can have as many people as you want. You can have as many workflows as you want. But you'll get an email notification that says you have invoices for your approval, and you can go in there and be able to make comments, upload additional, bill of lading or anything that you might that might support that invoice. You can go ahead and store that in there. On the opposite side, we offer a payment service, which we've talked about a little bit before. But really, what happens there is once it's been a fully approved invoice, once it's in your ERP and you're kind of going through that payment process, we'll work on really on your behalf. We receive that file that says, here's the payments I'm looking to have executed. That file is received by Avid Exchange, and we're reaching out to your vendors to actually execute that payment. Next slide here is really more of a graphic on the options that we are offering. So I mentioned some payment options before. So this is a vendor-driven program. So the vendor will give conditions of how they want to accept payment. And that can be done via a virtual card. It can be done versus what we call an enhanced ACH. It's really very similar to a direct deposit. Or they could opt for just a check. So we're able to offer those vendors the 3 payment options, all of which we would go ahead and follow up and make sure that they receive those. So again, making sure payment was received, applied. Should your vendors not receive that, we would also go through that process of tracking down the payment. We could void that payment or reissue a payment to the vendor. So really, once you approve and ask Avid Exchange to execute that payment, it's in our hands. We're taking care of the rest. Your vendors also get some added benefit of being able to log into a vendor portal and see exactly where in the process that payment was. So again, reducing those calls into your AP team, really trying to unburden them during that payment process. That payment detail is also funneled back into the Avid portal or the ERP, depending on the integration there. So you'll also have that at your fingertips as well. So let's take a look at some of the benefits of bundling these two together. So we've kind of, up to this point, talked about, receiving invoices, automating payments. So really, when we're looking at, I have plenty of clients that have looked at this as well, maybe we're just looking at one piece of this. And they end up looking at, really AP it's not just siloed. It's really a workflow. It's really a process. So the first challenge, requisitioning POs, and really trying to, really this comes down to, why did you implement a purchase order process to begin with? And that was really to track and really have more control, more visibility into spending. So we use the term maverick spending. So just not going crazy and keep on ordering stuff. You actually have a little bit more of control when you have an approval process for all of those purchases. And then the other big one is matching those POs to invoices. So when that invoice comes in, references a purchase order, why go through the manual process? We would actually go ahead and take that purchase order, search it out in your ERP, and make the match. So invoices is probably one of the largest issues my clients have when they first look at. It's really the most top of mind. There's so many manual touch points to really a receiving and approving process to invoices. Some of the challenges here: lost invoices, how automation helps. We provide a storage, really a central repository for all invoices to be received. It's now reportable. I love that you can set timers on these invoices. So if someone hasn't approved an invoice that's been sitting in their queue for over 24 hours, you can go ahead and do that. So that also cuts down on those late fees and time to payment. So you can go ahead and get those early pay discounts. Fraud and duplicate invoices, another big issue. So invoices that coming in, we're going and extracting the detail, but also making sure that any of those invoices that we've received already are being matched up against any of those previous received invoices. So identifying those duplicates. Removing paper. We don't have to tell you that paper is expensive. The storage of it, it kind of encompasses all of this, of losing invoices and having to manually enter things. One of the things that people don't realize too is when you go electronic, you have this whole digitized process really at your fingertips. So this is a solution that's available at your fingertips, whether it be a tablet, a phone. So you just log in and you have full functionality there. And then we're going to talk about workflows here, whether that be in our solution or whether that be in NetSuite, where you're currently, or really your ERP, and you're doing some workflows there. Let technology do the work for you. No more having to run around and find out who needs to go ahead and approve this invoice. One thing I will say on this is that we can also do proxy approvers. So I get this question a lot. What if someone goes out of the office? We do like to think we get some time off. We shouldn't be approving invoices then. We can have a proxy or even a department. So if someone's out of the office, that doesn't mean it's, the process is hindered. The workflow works with that. Also, one of the things that we're seeing a lot of is growth and how to scale. So we're familiar to our clients growing and needing additional needs. We were really kind of cut on multiple properties and really, hundreds of locations, a central repository for all those invoices to come in, cloud storage for all, accessible for all individuals. On the payment side, so I know we're probably coming up on time. I want to make sure we get to some questions too. I might go through this a little bit quicker. So some of the challenges that we're going to see here. So processing costs. We've already determined that checks are expensive. It takes a lot to keep up with that. It's a tough way of doing things. Sending checks off each and every day. We can automate that, take that burden off of the team. There's no visibility into that. So when those payments are being sent out, you don't know where that is in the process. There's no visibility into where that stands. Automation will help give you greater visibility for not only you, but also the vendor who's receiving that payment. We know that it's a slow process. we can help optimize that workflow, get quicker time to executing payment. Audit and compliance. I hear this every single day, making sure that that not only we're following the rules, complete audit trails, but also making sure that those that you still have the control and what those payments are doing, or who's sending those payments out, who's approving those payments. So you don't lose any of that. You actually get some added functionality to your ERP through that. One of the, I mentioned this before, I love that our solution provides some management around executing those payments. And that can be accepting those phone calls from the vendor. It can be us proactively reaching out to the vendor. It can even be going as far as the escheatment process. And then lastly, touched on it with audit and compliance, but fraud. So making sure that, when we're sending out payment, we're certain we're doing the checks and matches. So sending those payments out, and guaranteeing the accuracy of who's going to be receiving that payment. So we'll look inside AvidXchange. So really, we are a full solution from invoice receiving all the way through payment execution. We have over 140 different accounting system integrations, real-time reporting, unlimited workflows, and really we're here to kind of enhance your AP strategy, give you a paperless, really take out those touch points, provide a real tangible ROI. So I'm going to walk through a demo, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at really just a NetSuite instance. So we provision a bundle to be installed into your NetSuite instance. And simply, this is a downloaded suite app into your NetSuite bundle that allows for invoices to be received, but also enhances the native functionality of your NetSuite instance and really built in all the way down to the vendor level. So in the case that that invoices have gone through a validation or approval process in our AvidXchange portal, when they get synced into NetSuite, there's a couple things that we're doing. If that invoice references a purchase order, we're searching out the vendor and the purchase order number here. And you can see that you even get in this queue a status. So has the entire order been received? And this, the third one down, it's only been partially received. You have the choice to go ahead and bill and wait for the other items to be received, or in this case, for those other two, it's been fully billed, fully received. So you have this queue that's instantly going to give you some feedback on the status of those invoices. But what this has done, when we've taken those invoices, synced them into NetSuite, we go ahead and map those fields from that invoice into your bill screen. So, one of the things we do when we're looking at our clients is making sure that we're a really good fit where we can map to. And that's everywhere from those header fields to your bill screen. It's also the coding segments and mapping those directly to where you would fill out the coding in your NetSuite instance. So it also gives you the option then to go ahead and choose where you want to code. So depending on your workflow, it could mean that you're coding in our solution or coding in NetSuite. And then we're really going to go through the native NetSuite functionality. So once that bill is saved, it would now reside in your transactions under bill payments. So again, working within that native NetSuite functionality, we're giving you additional ability there, additional functionality. So we're going to go ahead and be able to save any payments that we want. And then when it's time to execute payment, we're adding additional payment options. Now, one of the things too that I want to focus on too is not only are we offering additional payment options, but we also offer additional payment approvals. And what I mean by that is, on top of those native NetSuite workflow approvals, you can also give specific user approvals. So I liken this to, like the CFO or CEO that's at their desk and you have a stack of checks and a stack of invoices, and that's their final payment approval. We basically digitize that, and that can be they can still have final payment release through the bundle. So we're going to go ahead and click on process payments. And this is where we enhance your NetSuite instance with additional payment options. And we're going to focus on the AvidPay network. So we mentioned that we have nearly 500,000 vendors that we've already gone ahead and we understand how they want to be paid. So at this point, those payments that you had selected previously at your bill transaction, you save them. They're teed up to be sent to the network. You still have complete control over that process of when payment is released. You simply select which payments you want to process, or you could select Mark All and then hit process. At that point, what happens is that file is received by AvidXchange and is now our fiduciary responsibility to execute payment to your vendors. At which point then we're sending payment to the vendor, and that could be either by the check, virtual card, or ACH method. It is all their choice of how that payment is executed. Once payment has been executed, you have really a status list. Still in NetSuite, that payment detail is then brought back into your NetSuite instance, and including even the check image, which was our most recent update. So you'll have full payment transaction detail as part of your NetSuite system of record. All right, that I covered a lot there. So I'd like to turn it over. I believe Carol's got an audience poll and some Q&A. So I'd love to answer any questions that may have been out there while we went through that.
Yeah, Wayne, thank you so much for extending all that information for us. I think it really helps when you translate back to some client experiences you've been noticing in the marketplace. So we have a couple of questions here I think we can get to with still the next 7 or so minutes we have until 2:45. The first one is, so what happens when we, or if we have a new vendor? How does the system record that?
Awesome. Yeah, great question. So when you have to add a new vendor, the typical practice would be to add that vendor to your accounting system, so your system of record. And then that can either be added to the AvidXchange portal via a vendor sync, or you can add that vendor manually. So you have some options there.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of our customers see, that seamless integration with NetSuite is so nice when they add or remove vendors from their instance. So the next one is about coding invoices. So does Avid actually code the invoices for the business?
Awesome. Great question. So we do not actually do the coding for them because that's really specific and unique to the business. It's really part of that decision. But we do, however, have some what I call smart coding features that can help with code memorization and really help speed up that process.
Great. Here's one that we get often from our clients as well about how to get paid. So we have a lot of clients that are taking advantage of that AvidPay network. They're seeing a lot of savings in the types of rebates that they're able to offer, as well as you guys do a great job doing the analysis of the vendors to help determine what percentage of their vendors are already in that pay network. But what if the vendor supplier doesn't want to get paid electronically? How else do you guys provide vendors with options for payment?
Great, yeah. So the default option can always be just us sending a check. So your AP team no longer has to, print stuff, mail out those checks. That is the basic default option where we'll go ahead and send a check to those vendors should they not want to receive the virtual card or the AvidPay direct payment.
Fantastic. Okay, so I know Carol had launched the poll as well, so everybody has an opportunity to tell us if you want to receive more information, how you want to receive more information. Just as we close, I want to say thank you so much to Wayne and the Avid team for being such a great partner here for Oasis and our customers. We appreciate the time that you spent today on this webinar, and we certainly hope to hear from you soon and hope that we can help you make the right determination on the right software for your business and as we see so much growth in this payable space, it's really becoming one of the main additional functionalities that our customers are looking for. So we want to help you leverage Avid effectively, and I know they're a really good partner with great technology to help you accomplish your goals. Thank you so much, everybody.